Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Courtside with Beilinson Tennis, part of the Tennis Channel Podcast Network. As always, here with my co-host and Hall of Famer Steve Flink. We are now in the quarterfinals. Both sides, both the men's and the women's draws. We are recording this on Martin Luther King Day in the States on Monday at around, I don't know, 10:15 Eastern time. So we're going to get this uploaded shortly after the recording. We'll have it definitely up before first ball strikes tonight. We got some tasty, tasty quarterfinal matchups here, Steve.
We do. It's a great lineup, David. As good as we could possibly have expected, perhaps better.
The bottom half, let's start with the men's side and the bottom half, which both of these matches are tonight for those in the States. Um, But my gosh, we'll lead off with Tommy Paul and Sasha Zverev, okay? Tommy has a 2-0 head-to-head lead. Both were outside on hard courts. That said, it was in 2022 and in 2020, so they haven't competed against each other in a long time. Sasha looks good. Tommy, he survived that early that five setter, but he's starting to look good again. He came over to Australia later than a lot of guys. So he didn't have a lot of prep, which I think he generally likes to prefer. The danger is you may not be ready from the get-go, and he survived it. He's starting to play a lot better. I can't wait for this match. How do you see this one going, Steve?
Yeah, I think it's going to be very tight. I think that Tommy can duke it out pretty effectively with Zverev from the baseline. So I think they're going to have some tremendous rallies, and Sasha's going to be looking to dictate off his forehand, and that's going to be interesting. But Tommy's speed and ability to counter is going to serve him well in the baseline exchanges. My question is, how does he deal with the Zverev serve? We know Tommy's a great returner, but we know Zverev is one of the premier servers in the game. So that's in the end, I give Zverev the edge, and I 4 or 5. I'm torn between 4 or 5 sets. I go with 5 in the end, I would say, because I think Tommy's going to play really well. But in the end, I think that the Zverev serve will be the decisive factor in the outcome.
How do you see the players moving forward? You know, when Tommy has played Medvedev a lot in the past, he's really tried to push moving forward, hitting volleys. You know, Zverev is a good volleyer as well. Do you think that will play an important role? Who gets to go on the offensive first in the point, and then who tries to end the point up at net?
Yeah, I will. And I think they'll both take the initiative that way quite frequently, especially on their own serves, where they can get the openings for the short balls and have natural avenues to attack. So, yeah, I think they're both going to do a lot of it, and it's not going to be as easy for Tommy as it is when he plays Medvedev because of the patterns and because of the paces, areas, shots. It's a different kind of match, but yes, I do expect them both to attack a lot, and I think it's going to be a very high caliber match. And I think Tommy Paul goes out there liking his chances. I don't, but I think he does, and I feel like this is going to be another one of those defining moments for Zverev, David, because last year he lost 4 times to another American named Taylor Fritz. And Fritz won over Zverev at both Wimbledon and the Open. So those were big bruising losses on major settings. And now here he is up against another American trying to make his way into yet another semifinal at a major, and Tommy Paul stands in his way. So I think don't get me wrong. If Tommy beats him, there's nothing embarrassing about it from Zverev's standpoint, but it would be jarring for sure.
And Tommy's now going to be in the top 10 too, so big time accomplishment for Tommy
Yeah,
Paul.
looking forward. I think it's going to be a great match.
All right. I guess I'll set a limit on, I guess, 2 hours for this one. But should we talk about Djokovic and Alcaraz? I mean, we got Novak leading head to head 4-3. The last time it was on hard court was that amazing, amazing final in 2023 in Cincy, which, if you haven't seen pieces of that match, get on YouTube and check it out because it was unbelievable. I mean, most of the time, when these both guys clash, it's just a absolute classic. I think Djokovic is playing with a little bit of an edge right now because of what happened with Channel 9, and that's dangerous for opponents when Novak It's almost like that Michael Jordan type of mentality. Michael would always look for little things to get him on the ultra competitive side, and when Novak does it, he becomes even more dangerous than he is when he has nothing to add, to give him a little bit of extra motivation. I can't wait for this match, Steve. I can't pick one or the other right now.
A very tough pick. Listen, in addition to what you're talking about, where he's going to be extra highly charged, Djokovic, because of this brouhaha over the announcer on Channel 9 dissing him and disrespecting the Serbian crowds, and that yes, it gives him that little extra edge and maybe makes him that much more intense. But as he said, he was already determined enough. He didn't need any extra motivation. So, but I think what's really fueling him now is a feeling of in the Mahach matches and Lehechka, the last two against the Czechs, those two straight set wins, both dangerous players. Not that you expected them to beat Novak, but it certainly seemed on paper like they were capable of taking sets, and they didn't. He won them both in straight, so he conserved energy and he also lifted his level considerably from where it had been in the first two rounds. That's where I think he's in good shape. Carlos, he's shown what a great big occasion player he is. He's beaten Novak in two Wimbledon finals, although he lost to him in the Olympic finals last summer. He's really, I mean, he's not trying to complete his career Grand Slam.
Never been to the semis in Australia, Steve.
Never been to the semis. Last year, he lost to Zverev in the quarters and didn't seem very well prepared for that match or that tournament. And he was without his coach, Juan Carlos Ferrero. Maybe that was also something of a factor. But this time, he's had a pretty easy path to this quarterfinal round, and Jack Draper, an exhausted Jack Draper, retired after two sets. So Carlos, who's lost one set in the tournament, he's very rested and ready and eager and determined himself. And I think it's one of those great, compelling contests where both guys go out there, as you say, it's so hard to call. They both go out there fully believing that they're going to win this match. There's no difference there. I just think it's going to come down to some critical points. And it's hard to imagine either one wins in straight. It was a surprise last year when Carlos won in straight in the Wimbledon final, but Novak was coming back from the knee surgery, and maybe you can attribute it to that. But usually they push each other to the limits, like the match in Cincinnati that you mentioned, which was nearly 4 hours. And Novak saved a match point in the second set tiebreak and won it in the third set tiebreak after Carlos had saved a bunch of match points. That was a spectacular contest.
Steve
And
said almost 4 hours. For the listeners, this was a 2 out of 3 set match. It went the
right.
distance 3 sets, but almost 4 hours. So imagine what that tennis was like.
Yeah, in impossible heat, which was reflecting off the hard courts in Cincinnati. Finally, as they moved into the evening, as it got a bit later, the conditions became a little more bearable for both players. But in any case, usually, I mean, look, they were heading for a great.
And this will be a night session match between them tonight. So they
Yeah,
won't have to deal with the heat.
this would be the second match. I think they follow Sabalenka Open, so they won't play till about 4:30 in the morning Eastern time is when it would start. But my point is, most of the battles, like the 5-set Wimbledon final in 2023, the Cincinnati match we just mentioned, the first match they ever played in Madrid went to a third set tiebreak and Carlos won on the clay. So they've had so many riveting skirmishes. That's what I see happening tonight. If you ask me to make a pick, I'm going to lean slightly to Djokovic for a variety of reasons. But I just think there's such a strong case to be made for either player that anybody taking too much stock in their own predictions is making a mistake.
Yeah. I cannot wait. Yes, it's the quarters. It's earlier than what everybody wanted, but unbelievable. I cannot wait. I cannot wait. I got to somehow structure my sleep pattern around this because for those in the States, it's going to be in the middle of the night. And a lot of us work the next day, but that's our problem to worry about. So we hope we hope it's an incredible match and leading into it, all signs showing that it will be. All right, let's not kind of I don't know, diminish the other two matches on the men's side. It's just, when after you talk about Novak and Alcaraz, it just kind of comes natural, but still, we got a great opportunity for here between Ben Shelton and Sonego. Shelton beat Gael Monfils, who had to retire early in the fourth set. It was 3 tiebreaks, the first 3 sets. Ben, I mean, what an opportunity for him to make another semi in his young career of a major. This would not be his first semi as a major. So Ben Shelton
Oh,
just continues the trajectory of his career.
yeah, he was in the quarters here a few years ago, and then he was also in the semis of the U.S. Open, lost
Yep.
in. And he's worked hard on his game ever since. And he played a good. He was playing well against Monfils, who was testing him to the hilt. As you say, it was all tiebreakers. And then early in the fourth, Monfils retired, which was a shame. But Ben has played well the whole tournament. Sonego just beat Tien. You know, he's come off a bunch of good. He beat Tien last night. Tien had, of course, beaten Medvedev in a great tournament for him. He looked exhausted. But Sonego, what impressed me there, what could help him a lot against Shelton, although I don't think it'd be quite enough to carry him to victory, it was how well he served. His first serve, the consistency of his first serve, the power. I mean, he was the first guy to be fairly dominant on serve against Tien, who was breaking serve all over the place against Medvedev and the other players. So that may be his hope. But of course, he's coming up against Shelton, who's got that incredible left-handed serve himself. So, and again, I'm going to give Ben the edge in this match for a 4-set win. Won't be easy, but I like his chances on the hard courts to get to his second major semifinal.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. And then the last quarterfinal at the very top of the draw, Yannick Sinner, good 4-set win over Holger Rune. He was not feeling well. They didn't even warm up during the match. You saw him visibly shaking at one point on a changeover. So hopefully, whatever was ailing him, they can take care of that. He plays a very informed Alex Demonauer, who beat young Alex Michelsen. Again, shout out Tien and Mickelson, great Australian Opens reaching the fourth round. But Sinner versus Demonar, I mean, it's going to be a great match. Alex obviously has the home crowd behind him. He's in form right now. And then Sinner, I think a lot again depends on his health, but Sinner, best player in the world right now.
It was a brutally hot day when he played that match, when he played against Holger Rune. And I thought he was in serious jeopardy there for a while because he won the first, lost the second. He was looking very wobbly, and at 1-all and 2-all in the third, Rune had break points, and finally, then he called for he got a medical timeout. The doctors came and looked at Sinner on the court, and then they went back, actually went to the locker room and left the court for about 7 minutes. When he came back, seemed a little more refreshed, and then Rune started having some issues with his knee. And in any case, I think that Sinner was fortunate and also highly professional in his usual determined self. He kept his composure and didn't panic, despite the fact that he was obviously, and he was complaining of dizzy spells. So hopefully that's gone. And if it is, that matchup favors him so decidedly over De Minaur, who's a great player. But I just feel that the matchup is terrible for Alex. So I'm assuming anything close to a top of the line Sinner wins in 3 or 4 sets, in my view.
Okay, let's flip it over to the women's side of the draw now. And the first match that leads us off today is Coco Gauff and Paula Badosa. Paula Badosa is back to where she was a couple years ago playing top form. Looking forward to that match. Coco lost first set to Bencic, but then won the next two sets pretty easy. But Dosa's been playing well. I think a lot of people are looking forward to that potential Sabalenka Coco semi, but Coco's got a test ahead of her tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I give Coco slight edge. I think we're going 3. I like Coco to win in 3, but I don't sell Badosa short by any means. She's a great competitor, and she is back to close to where she once was, very close, and has played well the whole tournament. And I think it's going to be very hard fought, and maybe in the end, as long as Coco has rhythm on her serve and the forehand is under control. She played well the last 2 sets against Bencic after dropping the first. So that's a confidence booster, I think, in the end. So I'll go with Coco in 3, but with slight hesitation.
And Sabalenka, yeah, I mean, I don't know. A lot of people are picking Sabalenka's opponent, but the way Sabalenka's been playing right now, I expect her in the semis pretty easy tonight.
Yeah, I don't know, easier and not easy, but I agree with you. I just can't see her losing the match. And I think she found her form in the last round. And she'd been struggling a bit, but now I think she's starting to peak. Now she's starting to sense that the opportunity to get her 3rd title in a row. She can start to feel it now coming down the home stretch. And that's a big match. And she wants to, I think she'd love to play Coco again. Not that she isn't worried by the prospect. I think she now is at the point in her career where she relishes these big challenges against her premier rival. So yes, I agree with you. Sabalenka goes through to the semifinals.
Loving the bottom half of this draw too. You got Maddie Keys who beat Rybakina last night. Maddie Keys, by the way, just for the listeners, she's 11-1. Match record. The year just started, 2025. She has three top 10 wins, six top 20 wins this year. Um, she won 25 of 38 points off of Rybakina's second serve. She broke her five times. We know Rybakina's serve. That's one of the best weapons in all of the women's game. Maddie Keys is on a roll, and she's playing Svitolina right now, who's having an amazing tournament. I can't wait to watch that match.
Yeah, it was a strange match, the Rybakina match. I have to say, I don't think Rybakina served her very best, but nonetheless, that's an extraordinary stat to win that many second serve return points. I think Keys showed a lot of mettle because in the middle of that match, she went into what used to be known as a walkabout. That term was used for Ivan Gulagans. Their mind wandered, something was off mentally, lost 5 games in a row, but regrouped nicely in the third, had the break, lost it, and then broke back again in the middle of the third and closed out the match. I like her chances. Svitolina's had a nice run here and never to be taken lightly, and probably and their career series is very close. I feel like Keys again in 3 sets.
And then the last one at the very bottom of the draw is Emma Navarro versus Iga Swiatek. All right, Emma Navarro. I mean, this person, when you talk about house money, this is her fourth straight three-setter. She was down 3-5 in the third to Peyton Stearns. She also was down in the second set, a game away from losing that match to Peyton Stearns. She was down 2-4, I think, in the third set in her second round match. She gets through that. I mean, two things, right? It's you could look at it in two ways. One is she's not playing near where she could be, and she's going to be in trouble against Swiatek if she doesn't raise her level. Or you're like, hey, she's hanging in there well enough to survive and give herself another chance to keep advancing, which she obviously has. She's now in the quarters. She's playing an informed Iga Swiatek right now. I mean, I feel like Emma, she has to raise her level a little bit in this match.
Listen, tennis is an exasperating sport, as you know, because last night she was on the verge of finally winning in her fourth round match, her first straight setter against Kasakina. She had a set in 5-4, 3 match points in this 10th game of the second set, unable to convert. And then it eventually went to 7-5 in the third. But I'll say this, David, she's got the kind of build. There's something about her build. I feel like she can endure these long matches better than just about any other player. I don't see any sign of physical distress out
No.
there. And so I feel like that's not what will cost her the match. It's just Iga seems to be hitting peak hardcourt form for her. And yeah, I think she's just going to have too much punch in her game. And I feel like she will dictate the turns of the most match and come away with a win, probably along the lines of 4-4. But Emma will compete hard and make Iga work hard.
And what helps with Emma is she's pretty steady emotionally
Yeah,
throughout her matches. Yeah,
yeah.
she gets frustrated at times, but there's very few peaks and valleys with her. So that helps the mentality of it going through those matches. But yeah, Steve, I think I'm in agreement with you on that one. So these quarterfinal matches on both sides are so great. I'm so excited to see the conclusion of this tournament. Before we wrap up, I'll leave it to you. I'm not going to put you on the spot and ask to pick winners, but if you want to talk about any closing thoughts, if you want to pick a winner, whatever, I'll just leave it open to you, and we'll do this again most likely once the tournament is concluded.
Yeah, David, just a final thought regarding Djokovic and Alcaraz, and it's simply this. It's one of the most eagerly anticipated quarterfinals we've seen in a long, long time. And
Didn't Rafa and Novak play in the quarters in the French a few years
yes,
ago?
yes, they did in 2022. Yeah,
Yeah.
they but that one, yes, highly anticipated. But this one, for a lot of reasons, has it's got everybody. It's going to be so riveting and it's going to be such a fantastic showdown. But so the good news is we get to see them play in the quarters. But the bad news is with the misfortune of the draw and Novak coming in as the number 7 seed and Carlos seeded third, one of them is going to be out of this tournament in the quarters, and the other is going to have to pick themselves back up after a bruising, what should be a bruising skirmish one way or another, and then have to face Zverev or Paul, and then have to play Sinner in the final. So, what a tough deal it is for these two guys, even for the winner, to
Yeah.
know that they played what felt like a final. This has the feel of a final, at the very least a semifinal, but it's only a
Not
quarterfinal.
only physically, but mentally as well. Yes.
Physically and mentally, to get back up psychologically and physically, all facets, and then have to win two more matches.
Yeah. Against
That
quality opponents, against very quality opponents. It's
yeah.
not like the
So
draw is opened up in a way where they can kind of sleepwalk through their next opponent. That's not the case.
yeah, no, because the likelihood is the winner will play Zverev too, and they'll know that that's going to be very tough to win. So all I'm saying is I feel sorry for the guy. I feel sorry for both those guys. With some luck, this wouldn't have happened, and they would have met potentially in a semifinal, and at least the winner would just have one more hurdle, one last hurdle, instead of two more tough matches.
I think Zverev, if you look at it from his perspective, and he's obviously got to be focused on a informed Tommy Paul right now, but if you look at it at a higher level, he's got to be loving his chances because if Djokovic and Alcaraz go, like you say, for 5 hours or whatever it is for 5 sets, and Zverev can get by Tommy Paul, this may be Zverev's best chance to win a major.
Yeah, could well. Of course, we've said that before, but I agree. I agree. And look, he's looked. The difference in this Zverev from so many other majors is he's gotten it done quickly and confidently. And he lost a set to Humbert in the last round, but otherwise, that was still a very comfortable, quick 4-set win. And all the others have been really easy. And I just feel like that's different. He usually gets himself bogged down in long 5-setters. That's maybe what finally cost him the French Open last year against Carlos when he was up 2-1, but he'd had so many long matches along the way. So this time I feel like he's poised, mentally he should be poised, and you're right. He's hoping that Novak and Carlos just kill each other and play the longest match possible, and he can play somebody who might be a little depleted. But of course, he's got to get the job done against Tommy Paul
Right.
himself. So very intriguing. This tournament down the stretch should be phenomenal. Absolutely
Cannot wait.
phenomenal.
Cannot wait. Thanks so much, Steve. We'll get this out soon so everyone can see it before first ball hits tonight. Thanks again.
And what time are you getting up tomorrow morning?
I don't know. I gotta strategically figure that out. So we'll see. All right.
Oh,
Have a good one, Steve.
thanks, David.